Hi, I'm Milo Bustle, a consumer analyst here at Edison Group, and today I'm joined by Charles Nelson, a non-executive director at London Tunnels plc. London Tunnels owns the Kingsway Exchange Tunnels and has exciting plans to turn them into a major tourist attraction in central London. The company listed on Euronext Amsterdam in June 2024 and has a market capitalisation of around £150 million. Charles, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks very much, Milo. Lovely to be here.
So Charles, for those that may not be familiar with the London Tunnels, could you start by introducing the project, please?
Yes, I'll obviously introduce the company and the project and the history of it, because it's a fascinating venture that we're kind of going down that path on. It is likely to be the last major scale tourist attraction for history and heritage in London. And what I mean by large scale is up to 3 million visitors a year. The same kind of scale as, say, Madame Tussauds or the London Eye. We are planning to renovate these tunnels to bring them back to a safe state where Londoners and the millions of visitors who visit London every year can come and have a look at their role in the war and also the uses that the tunnels had post-war as well. And we're extremely excited about being able to be in this position to develop that. But before I go into the tunnel's history, what I would like to say is that we're encouraging people to come and see for themselves. We are running tours. There's very limited availability. What we would encourage people to do, particularly if they're investors, and you can buy shares, as Milo said, it's listed on the Euronext in Amsterdam, but you can buy shares via broker platforms like AJ Bell, and we will prioritise shareholders. But late October, we're running some tours down to the tunnels, and we would encourage everyone to get onto our website, thelondontunnels.com, and apply to come down and come and see for yourself. It's an incredibly exciting opportunity.
And it would be great if you could tell the audience more about the history of the tunnels.
Absolutely. So to give you a feel for the location, they are literally round the corner from here. They run underneath Holborn, in fact underneath the central line, 2 tunnels running parallel east to west. They were built in the war to house Londoners for the Blitz, and in fact there were a series of tunnels which were built around London for that purpose. Interestingly, these ones were never used because they were started in 1940 and finished in 1942, and by that time the Blitz had kind of dissipated. Although I'm sure you're aware there was a lot of people who died from bombings from Nazi Germany over that period, something like 43,000. So they were seen as a very important construction project for protecting Londoners. Yeah. In total, the tunnel network is around a mile long. That's the whole network of tunnels. But actually, the 2 main tunnels run perpendicular to each other, east-west. There's approximately the same size as a tube tunnel, each one about 400 metres long with interconnecting tunnels. And then there are 4 larger diameter but shorter perpendicular tunnels running off one of the tunnels. In fact, to give you a feel for scale, you can run 3 double-decker buses side by side down the bigger tunnels. So it's an absolutely enormous scale project. And when they were built in the war, they were due to house up to 10,000 people at any one time, on each tunnel having an intermediate level, which are no longer there, but an intermediate level to house Londoners. They were built, as I mentioned, in between 40 and 42. They were never used because of the dissipation of the bombing by Nazi Germany, but were kind of seen as important storage facilities for various other things. So after the kind of Blitz had dissipated, there were many other kind of government departments which used them. They were a reserve war room, as an example. Towards the end of the war, they were passed on to SOE, Special Operations Executive, part of MI6. Everyone's familiar with that. And at the time, we believe that Ian Fleming was a naval liaison officer to SOE and would have seen these tunnels in use by SOE. And they were specifically used for research and development. So, in fact, they were Q branch and became Q branch. So in the James Bond novels, that's exactly what you see. After the war, they were used for various purposes, in particular The Public Records Office had a lot of storage down there. They put in 80,000 feet of shelving, 500 tons of documents, which went all the way back to the Doomsday period, which had been brought back from the provinces which during the war, after the war, because during the war they were obviously in danger of being destroyed by the bombing raids. And then, more interestingly, they got passed on to the GPO. And the GPO in those days was split between the mail part of it and also telecommunications exchanges. And they set up an exchange there, and in the 50s built the 4 large perpendicular tunnels that I mentioned, which housed generating equipment, exchange equipment, switches, etc. And during the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 60s, it was the hotline between the US and the Russian or the USSR governments, in particular Khrushchev and Kennedy obviously talking down there. So a lot of really interesting history. They then passed on to BT, who then have sold the tunnels to us, to the company. And as you've probably read, it houses the deepest bar in the city. So a very interesting prospect for anyone who's visiting the tunnels as we redevelop it. But we're really motivated to bring that heritage back to life. And we think that we're not only going to get a lot of interest from Londoners to come and see their history and their parents' history or their grandparents' history around the Blitz, but also foreign tourists who come in and they want to see what happened in London over the war period. And the other point I would make is that it's not just going to be a history and heritage site, we're going to have a cultural element to it as well. So all in all, a very interesting prospect. And as I said before, we'd love people to come and see it for themselves. Please get onto the website and apply for a ticket.
The tunnels clearly have a fascinating heritage, and I'm sure many investors would be keen to go and see them. So what are the plans you have to transform the tunnels?
This has been a labour of love. So for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been preparing to get to that stage where we can actually get into construction and renovation. We received full planning permission from the City of London Corporation in June this year, June the 11th this year, and also from Camden Council in July this year. So we're ready to go. So we've appointed some of the leading companies to help with the plans for this tourist attraction, including architects like Wilkinson Eyre, who will help us develop the tunnels to their former glory, and including, of course, the bar, the deepest bar in London. This is not just a historical and heritage site. It's also going to be a cultural attraction. So what we're doing is we're looking at partnerships where people and tourists can come down and visit an entertainment space. So along some of the tunnels you're going to have the history, that incredibly rich history around the war, and in other parts of the tunnels you'll be able to be immersed in contemporary entertainment. So it should be an incredible experience for people, and they can pick and choose about which way they want to go. And that's one of the real interesting parts about this whole project, is that it shouldn't just be a one-stop attraction. We hope that people will come back time and time again to visit different types of entertainment, as well as the history of the tunnels as well.
So you've signposted 2027 as the year for commercial launch. So what are the sort of expectations you have around visitor numbers, revenue and profitability by then?
Yeah, so our view, our plan is that the project will open up for commercial operations in late 2027, maybe early 2028. To give you a feel for visitor numbers, profitability, scale, etc. As I mentioned before, it's of similar. It should be of similar size, we think, to London Eye or Madame Tussauds. We think our plan is up to 3 million visitors a year. And when you think about ticket prices in London for these kind of attractions, they're fairly standard, I would say. So when you look at the potential profitability and revenues, it's going to be of that order that you would expect to see from companies like London Eye and Madame Tussauds.
So having recently received planning permission approval from Camden Council, what are the other key milestones that investors should be looking for?
So We've obviously been announcing a lot of different things over the last few months, including the listing, including the full planning permissions. We've got it on the website. You can see all of the development plans there. You can also go to the planning portals as well. I think it would be logical to assume that the next stages would be around operation. When we get to that stage of starting construction, who's going to operate it, how's it going to be operated, and of course we'll be making announcements to the stock exchange in due course. I'd like to reiterate again that these tunnels, being under development, are really fascinating spaces in their own right. We would encourage people to get onto the website and apply to come down and see for themselves, because we think it's a fascinating experience.
Yeah, absolutely, and it sounds like a very interesting prospect for investors. Charles, thank you very much for joining today.
Pleasure. Thanks, Milo.